All right, what's up, guys? My name is Kevin Bell. I'm a full-time police officer. I'm a husband and dad of three. I start, buy, and grow businesses from self-storage to lawn care in order to change the financial trajectory of my family. My buddy and I, John, we run this podcast, and we're focused on starting, buying, and scaling businesses. We don't even need you to like or subscribe. We just ask you to do one thing. Just follow along with us. And the best way to do that is through this newsletter. As we learn and do things, we will teach you everything that we know. Entrepreneurship is a team sport, so let's go. This episode is called Balls in the Air. So there's a super popular book out there that people like to point out all the time when they think that you're doing too many things. The One Thing by Gary Keller. Now, it's a good book. I've read the book. I have the book. It's a good book. I love the idea of hyperfocus, but I think the idea gets taken too literal. Partly due to the fact that people can tend to be pretty literal, but also because it's easier just to do one thing. And in some cases, it's better just to do one thing. But at other times, it's not better to just do one thing. This isn't a law, it's a bandwidth thing. And most wanters don't have the bandwidth. They barely have the bandwidth to do their 9 to 5. Then if they can even fathom having anything else on top of that crazy 9 to 5 life, it has to just be one thing. But big dreams aren't linear. There aren't molds of how success works, right? You also aren't going to succeed at your first thing that you try. So you have to be willing to do a ton of things, right? So one way that I found to expedite that process is by working on several projects. And this doesn't mean that I have several projects that I'm working on at the exact same second. That's not possible. That's not what I'm doing. But I do have several projects active because each of them has legs and potential. And I am capable of managing all of them with the team that I have. And I'll tell you more about how I do that with my team at another time. That's not the point of today. The point is that I am able to do it. So I do it. And it didn't start off that way. It started off with one thing. And as I grew and my capacity grew, I added another thing. I am in a yes phase of my build right now. And that's another thing that you'll hear people say a lot. That you need to say no more than yes, which I totally agree with, but that's like an after the fact realization. And what you say when you're in the fact is you say yes. You experiment, you iterate, you fail, you pivot, you partner with people on things because you know the partnership alone will pay off tenfold. You fail again, you succeed, you fail again, etc., 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 right? You have to say yes before you have the luxury to say no. That's just how it goes. People have made it by saying that, everything has to be one thing, and they stand on this platform next to their successful life and their big house, and they tell you that's exactly what you have to do, right? They've made it, and now they're telling you that that's exactly what they have to do. But there's millions of us out there that are still in the W-2 grind and that have to say yes to whatever opportunities we can in order to learn the skills, build the network, grow the business, and get to the point when we can leave the W-2 and then we can start saying no. No is earned. Focus is key, but not in the common definition. Don't focus on one thing. Focus instead on the creation as a whole. I am focused. I'm focused on building my empire. And what does that look like? That looks like buying more storage, buying more businesses, building my personal brand, creating content around what I'm doing and learning, writing my newsletter, partnering with like-minded people. It also means raising my kids, taking care of my wife, being the fittest dad in the neighborhood. It's all encompassing. I'm laser focused on that. But if people look at all these things, they're likely to say and have said that my focus needs to be on one thing, right? Just focus on one thing, do one thing, lean into one thing. But what they don't realize is that it is. They just don't get it. And most never will. So here's my message for you today. Forget the noise. Go against the grain. Do a freaking ton of things until you have the luxury to lean in and say no to everything else. And I'll leave you with this. Okay, Walt Disney, he failed tons of times. There's Laugh-O-Gram that went bankrupt, and then Kansas City Film Ad Company where he was fired for not being creative enough. Henry Ford, he had the Detroit Automobile Company, and then that went bankrupt, and then he had the Henry Ford Company, and that ended because of a dispute of investors. Colonel Sanders, we know his story, right? He worked as a lawyer, a tire salesman, a ferry boat operator, And then he had a restaurant that was shut down before he succeeded with his fried chicken. And then Steve Jobs, we know this story as well, but he had the Apple Lisa and then Next, among other things, before he finally figured out the formula and built what Apple is today. Okay? These are people that we all know, love, they're household names. They did a bunch of things. You have to experiment. You have to iterate. That is how you get to the point when you can say no to everything else, right? But while you're in it, you're saying yes. You're doing a lot of things. You're in the grind, okay? To all my action takers and doers out there that resonate with this, that are doing a ton of things, I hear you. I see you. Until next time, stay in the fight.